back in the superhero genre after playing Norman Osborn in Spider-Man.
Right.
What's it like being back?
You know, it's different. I'm different. The world is different. The directors are different.
Yeah.
Different character.
Speaking of directors, what was it like working with James?
Great. James, I loved. He's very enthusiastic. He was a huge draw for me coming to this project. I mean, his movies, he's very precise. You can really see a very sure director's hand. So it was very curious to think that he worked on a big scale, but nothing this big plus a fantasy film.
Yeah.
So he was great. He's incredible. He's got an incredible energy. He's got an incredible film culture. He's like a little kid as far as his enthusiasm. And he's rigorous enough that, you know, he can delegate well and get the overview. Yeah. But he's always there with a film this big where you have so much effects to set up and you have to do so much planning. You really need a general. And sometimes people you know, have to delegate too much and they lose touch with the actors. But he's right there with you. He's very, he doesn't miss anything.
So you play Volko, who's sort of like this guardian character to Arthur.
Right.
And you played a similar type of character last year in the Florida project with Mooney, you know, this guardian.
I guess I'm getting a little older or something. I'm getting those guardian roles.
Well, is there something about that type of role that you're drawn to, like that sort of protector?
That's a nice way to think of it. You know, I never made a connection to those two things because they're colored by so many different, you know, they're very different kinds of movies. Yeah. I think it's a product of, maybe a product of age, I guess, that you get to the point where you're playing authority figures and fathers and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So in that world are also guardians.
Yeah. So do you notice a difference between jumping back and forth between these big scale, these big action movies and a kind of a smaller scale? Is there a different approach that you take?
Very. I mean, you know, the way of making a movie always is colored by, of course, its economics and also its intentions and what kind of movie you're trying to make. Certainly a movie like this, there has to be such incredible planning. The pace is very different. The coverage is different. The resources are different. With a smaller film, it's a little lighter. It's a little looser. There's less delegation. There's less sampling to create things that are developed further in post-production. So they're very different. But I like going between worlds because it always brings you back to each time you're doing something. You don't fall into patterns, and you kind of have, it becomes a first time every time. Yeah. Because there's no normal. And it's partly out of, it just happens naturally as well. I've always kind of tried to cultivate that. But it works out sometimes to go from a big movie to a small movie. It's kind of not the best career advice all the time, but for me it suits me very well.